Nate Diaz versus Leon Edwards. I can't tell you how much I enjoyed this fight. I'm not Leon Edwards' biggest fan, by my own admission. I just find him a little bit dull in the way that he sort of conveys himself and things like that. I don't find the most interesting person, basically, is what I'm trying to tell you. But what I did find very compelling was his skill set in this fight and his skill set overall. For the longest time, I kind of thought that he was not journeyman, that's the wrong word, because he wins a lot. And he's very precise, and everything he throws is meant to land. He is a very calculated fighter. He obviously has put in the work, and you can see that in his performances. So Leon Edwards, for me, is obviously a world-class athlete. And I don't want to appear as if I don't understand that and I'm not giving off that vibe, because he is one of the highest ranked welterweights in the world. He is on a 10-fight win streak. Obviously, if we perhaps ignore the eye poke, a 9-fight win streak. We're not breaking the win streak for that eye poke. That's not fair. And he went in and fought against Nate Diaz, who hasn't fought in 2.5 years. So that's all set up. Nate Diaz will always put on performances that the fans love. And what do you get in a Nate Diaz fight? You get a bit of clowning, a bit of playing around. You get his face coated in blood. Coated. The scar tissue is unbelievable. And you get a competitive fight. And I know you might say that this fight was not competitive until the last round, blah, 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 blah. But if that was a fight in the street for the first 4 rounds, Nate Diaz would still be in that fight, wouldn't he? When you go into the 5th round, and this is the thing that I don't think Nate Diaz will be disappointed about this, but when he rocked Leon Edwards in that 5th round, I don't think there's a person alive that didn't believe that Nate Diaz could have finished that fight. And instead, he stopped and pointed and laughed at him. It's almost as if he didn't realise how much he'd hurt him. He pointed and laughed, and then he went on the attack. If he'd have gone straight away, I'm 99.9% sure he finishes that fight. And we're now talking about Nate Diaz, who sat on the shelf for 2.5 years, the #1 contender for Kamaru Usman's belt. Because let's be clear, if Nate Diaz won that fight, Dana does that fight over the Colby fight. And the reason for that is that Colby fight is always going to be there. That Nate fight is a brand new fight. It's a massive name. Nate Diaz is a draw. But Nate being Nate, he was himself and he didn't finish the fight. But that shows you just how good Nate Diaz is that he is so robust that he can get into these wars for rounds and rounds and rounds, and then he can still almost win the fight. His boxing is fantastic. Obviously, his ground game goes without saying. He struggles with leg kicks and he has no leg kick defence whatsoever, and it's almost as if he's not interested in having a leg kick defence either. And that is probably, if he cared, a part of his game that he could really round off and make himself a lot harder to beat. But Conor gave that blueprint against Nate Diaz by just hitting him with the leg kicks. And then all of a sudden, he struggles to get things off until Conor gets tired. So, well done to Leon Edwards. The trouble is, he didn't go out there and finish Nate Diaz. He didn't go out there and finish an unranked opponent who'd been sat on the shelf for 2.5 years. And that hurt him. And he didn't get that title shot. And I know Dana said about Colby getting it before, but if he went out there and put away Nate Diaz in 2 rounds, we might be having a different conversation about who's going to fight Kamaru Usman in the next couple of months, and we're not. So those are the facts. Nate Diaz, he almost finished the fight with a Stockton slap and then a left-handed punch that almost knocked Leon Edwards out. That is unbelievable. If he'd have finished that fight, that would have been one of the best knockouts in UFC history. It would have had to have been. It would have had to have been. So yeah, Nate Diaz is a warrior. He is a legend. I will pay to see him fight as long as he wants to fight. There's fun fights out there for him now. We can get the Jorge Masvidal rematch. Although I'd probably like to see Jorge Masvidal against either Leon Edwards or against Nick Diaz. I'd quite like that a lot. Dan Hooker called out Nate Diaz. I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at that at all. Dan Hooker could go up in weight. He's a big guy. So there are fun fights out there for Nate Diaz. Leon Edwards isn't going to get the title shot. Does he want to sit and wait, or does he want to fight again? If he fights again, he could fight Bilal Muhammad. You know, run that back. There's a lot of fun fights in that welterweight division that are still hanging around. But for me, Nate Diaz, what a guy. What a guy.